I first heard about the midnight market from a drunk in a Glenmere tavern. He said it only appeared once every 10 years, on Halloween night, for people who'd lost something that won't stay dead. I laughed it off until I found my brother's old sneakers in the attic that morning, still wet with river water. He'd drowned 5 years ago. By nightfall, I was desperate enough to try. They said you could find the market by following the sound of music no one else could hear. At midnight, standing alone on Main Street, I heard it, a distant waltz, played on out-of-tune violins. The air shimmered like heat over asphalt, and then the street changed. The market stretched before me, rows of crooked stalls glowing in colors that didn't exist. People drifted between them, faces hidden behind masks, stitched from skin and lace. The smell of sugar and ash hung heavy in the air. A woman at the first booth smiled, her teeth like tiny mirrors. Looking to buy, trade, or forget? I'm looking for my brother, I said. Her grin widened. Then you're looking for the vendor of echoes. I found him near the end of the row, tall, thin, wrapped in black silk. His stall had no candles, only shadows that moved like water. You seek what's gone beneath the veil, he said. I can bring him back. What do you want? I asked. Your shadow. It sounded ridiculous, but I was already nodding. He gestured, and the ground beneath me rippled. My shadow peeled away like wet paper, curling upward before slipping into a jar. For a moment, I felt light, hollow. Then I heard my brother's voice. He was standing at the edge of the market, barefoot, dazed, alive. I ran to him, crying, holding him so tightly he gasped. But when he looked at me, his face twisted in terror. Leah, what did you do? That's when I saw it. The lights behind us weren't casting shadows, except mine. It stood behind me, flat against the ground, but its head tilted the wrong way, and it was smiling. We left the market before dawn. I tried to pretend everything was normal, but my reflection lagged behind. At night, I'd hear whispers in the dark, my own voice repeating what I'd said hours earlier, like an echo learning to speak. Then my brother disappeared again. His bed was empty, except for black dust, fine and oily, like burned ash. When I turned on the light, my shadow was waiting on the wall, but I wasn't standing in front of it. It waved. That's when I realized it wasn't mine anymore. I drove back to Glenmere the next Halloween. The market returned, brighter this time. The vendor of echoes was gone. In his place stood something new. A figure with my face, eyes hollow, mouth stitched into a smile. A sign hung over her stall. New trade available. One soul, lightly used. And when she spoke, her voice was my own. Looking to buy, trade, or forget. When I first moved to Brindle Hollow, I thought the whole candle thing was just small-town superstition. Every Halloween, the locals lined their doorsteps with candles, one for every soul they'd lost that year. Guides for the dead, they said. If one goes out before dawn, the lost don't find their way home. I didn't believe a word of it. I was renting an old farmhouse at the edge of town, the kind with warped floors and wallpaper that peeled like old skin. My neighbor, a kindly old man named Harlan, stopped by on October 30th. You got your candle ready? He asked. I laughed. I didn't know that was a requirement. Harlan's face fell. You must have one, son. The Hollow don't take kindly to an unlit door. Here, he handed me a tall black candle, the wax marbled with streaks of dark red. This one's from Maeve's shop. Best burn in town. I thanked him and set it by the front door. When night fell, I lit it, mostly to humor the locals. The flame burned steady, red wax trickling like blood down its side. At midnight, I was half asleep when I heard it, a pop, followed by darkness. The candle had gone out. Then came the knock. Slow, heavy, wet. I froze on the couch. Another knock, dragging across the wood, like someone pressing their palm and sliding it down the door. Trick or treat, I called out, trying to sound brave. But whoever was out there didn't answer. The knocking continued, uneven, desperate, until dawn. When sunlight finally spilled through the curtains, the door was slick with mud, and 3 faint handprints streaked across the wood. I blamed it on some drunk kids. That is, until the second night. I woke around 3 a.m. to the smell of dirt and rot. The floor creaked near my bed. When I turned on the lamp, I saw it, muddy footprints circling my bed, and small damp handprints trailing up the wall toward the candle, the one that had gone out. I drove straight to town the next morning. Maeve's candle shop was easy to find. The whole place smelled like honey and smoke. Behind the counter stood a frail old woman with clouded eyes. "You're the new one," she said softly. "The one Harlan gave my candle to." I frowned. "Yeah, I think something's wrong with it." Her smile was sad. "Not wrong, dear, just old." She told me the story. A century ago, her great-grandmother, the first Maeve, had burned alive in her workshop while making candles for the town's first Halloween vigil. Since then, every candle carried a piece of her spirit. "We light them," the old woman said, "so she doesn't wander. But if her flame goes out..." I didn't let her finish. I went home. That night, I relit the candle. The flame hissed, then burned blue. The air grew thick, heavy, damp. From the hallway came a soft shuffle, like bare feet on wood. "Ellis," a voice whispered. It came from inside the house. I turned, and in the reflection of the window, I saw her, a woman with eyes like melted wax, standing behind me, one hand reaching toward the flame. It flickered. Then it went out. Halloween used to be my favorite night of the year. The smell of pumpkin guts, the way the air crackled with mischief, it always made me feel like a kid again. But last year, everything changed. It started small. Around 11:45 p.m. I was handing out the last of my candy when I noticed something strange in the living room window. The reflection of the street behind me, the one shown in the glass, wasn't empty. There was another parade. Children in costumes walked past, their heads low, movements jerky and quiet. But when I turned around to look through the actual window, the street was empty, no one there. Only in the reflection did the parade continue, a ghostly, silent trick-or-treat. I laughed at first, thinking it was fatigue. I'd been editing videos all week, barely sleeping. But then one of the kids in the reflection looked directly toward me. She wore a black witch hat and carried a plastic cauldron. My stomach twisted. It was the same costume I'd worn when I was 8. I grabbed my phone and started recording through the glass. The reflection flickered, the image warping with every step the children took. When I checked the footage later, my hands went cold. Among the silent kids was me, smaller, younger, grinning wide, holding a candy bag that dripped something darker than chocolate. Shadows leaked from it like smoke. I told myself it was a trick of the light, maybe an old memory bubbling up. But the next morning, when I brushed my teeth, I noticed something worse. My reflection didn't move right. It lagged, just for a second, like a skipped frame in a bad video. When I smiled, it smiled late. When I turned my head, it stayed still. That night, the neighbors started panicking. 3 kids, all from the same block, hadn't come home after trick-or-treating. Police searched everywhere. The only clue, parents said they'd seen their children's reflections outside the windows long after midnight. I started researching old local legends and found something buried deep in the 1960s newspaper archive, the Mirror Parade of Willow Park. Every few decades, kids went missing around Halloween, always described the same way, last seen near mirrors, windows, or puddles. The paper claimed it was the Reflections collection, taking children who had forgotten their own faces. On October 31st, I taped every mirror in my house, every one except the hallway mirror, the big one near my front door. Around 11:50 p.m., the temperature dropped. My phone flickered, camera turning on by itself. In the reflection, I saw them again. The mirrored children, walking, silent, expressionless. And there I was, the younger me, at the front of the line, waving. "Come on." My reflection whispered. The words came from the glass, not my mouth. "You don't belong out there anymore." I backed away, but the mirror rippled like water. My reflection smiled first before I did, and stepped forward. I tried to run, but my legs wouldn't move. Cold fingers brushed mine. The last thing I saw before the world flipped inside out was my reflection climbing out of the glass, and me smiling back from the other side, joining the parade forever. Thanks for listening. Now close your eyes and sleep.